Close meeting to order of the Board of Public Works for April 15th. Number 2, approval of the minutes of the April 1st, 2024 Board of Public Works meeting.
A motion.
Derek, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Citizens comment? Tom?
Just a quick comment. You probably received an email here today where they're going to be looking at having a special common council meeting on May 7th to discuss more developers agreement issues with the Green Acres subdivision. So just trying to make you informed of that.
Right. Okay. Number 4, request to decline bids for construction of a new softball field at Bram Park, presented by Justin Jasperson, Director of Parks Recreation.
I don't think so.
You break it every time.
Testing. There we go. Oh, you guys can hear me okay. Yeah, my memo is for seeking approval to decline the bids for the construction of the bids for the new softball field at Brain Park. We got permission to go out to bid last month. We worked through our architect engineering firm, Parkitecture, and getting bids. It would include all the labor, materials, services, and equipment to change the fields from a 285 field to a 200 field. We received 3 bids, one from Marwood, one from C&H out of Door County, and one from the Bozen Company. All 3 were higher than what our budget could afford. At this time, there's not really a lot of dollars available either by private fundraising mechanisms, grants, or those resources. So at the best case scenario right now is we decline these bids, request more money to be allotted to the project for next year, and then rebid it next year. So right now I'm looking to decline the 3 bids and then hopefully, not part of the motion, but hopefully rebid it for next year.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Second. Any discussion? Mike?
Justin, could you expound a little bit on there? I was reading it said, I believe, 175,000 was the projected cost, but we could only afford 125.
Part of the project is our architectural and engineering fees, so paying the architect and the engineer to design everything. And then we do as much direct purchase as we can to save dollars. So when the city can direct purchase like bleachers, benches, trash cans that go with the project, we save anywhere from 10 to 15% rather than having a general contractor purchase those items and then turn around and sell them back to us. So there was probably anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 with additional costs that aren't always built into that bid amount. So the bid amount might be one, but there's some extra that we need to account for. And some of that's the engineering, architectural services, and the direct purchases we're going to do associated with this project. We also went back and looked to see, is there any way we can do some cost saving, just shrink some things, change some things, but it's bare bones. There's no real cost savings at all. We have to just get more money. So there's no way of like changing the project because it's so basic. There's not much you can do. There's not any fluff. We had lights part of the project as an add alternate at 100,000. We're not even going to consider that at this point. It's just not going to work. Not at all in the cards. We had probably 5 add alternates part of this project that weren't even being considered at this point just because we can't afford them. So this is the bare bones project at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Derek?
Thanks, Justin. I got a couple questions. So I think number 1 would be, is there potential to do, and I know you said it's pretty bare bones, but is there a potential to do any kind of phasing or anything that would help mitigate some of the costs in the interim at least, so you could still move forward with part of the project?
Not really, just because you have to remove a backstop and an infield and then move it in, 80 feet, 85 feet. And you're essentially got to rebuild that infield and put the backstop back up. And then you got to do the flat work for concrete as well as the electrical. So it's all intertwined. There's not way to phase it. I would love to do it, but we even thought about generaling it ourselves. We'd be the general. We'd sub out all the stuff, but then I just think it's a little messy and there's not enough, I don't want to call it fluff, but there's just not enough there to really warrant that. We won't make any money. I think we'll end up just being more stressed and upset trying to manage 3 or 4 subcontractors.
That makes sense. One of the other notes we had in here was reallocating other money for the project and advertising it at a later date. So would we be looking to put this money towards something else, or would it just kind of sit in an account somewhere and wait for this project to come back to life, or how does that work?
It would sit in the 420 fund until next year, and then we would just add to that project. Let's just say it's 100,000. We just add $100,000 to the project, rebid it out, and then hopefully everything works in our favor.
Okay. I think that makes sense. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Russ?
First of all, I'll commend you for the budget discipline. Don't have the money, you don't have the money, and the project doesn't move forward, so thanks for that. Secondly, I think I know the answer, but just to be sure, this is a standalone project, so by canceling this project, there's any increased cost to any other project going on at Bram Park, correct?
No. The only thing that will probably be impactful is we'll probably delay the other things. This project's part of several other things. So the pickleball courts is part of this, the softball field. We have a new playground going in, as well as a shelter and restroom, and then the parking lot. So everything will probably be pushed back another year. But it's not like it's impacting them, meaning nothing's going to impact them. It's just everything's going to be delayed a year. We can't move the playground until the softball fields move. And we can't do the shelter and pavilion until these things are done, so we can connect all the power together.
Okay, so from a construction cost perspective, they're not connected, but canceling this project postpones
It's a delay in everything.
projects by 1 year.
Yes.
And with that said, then are we going to incur escalation?
There'll be obviously inflation and cost of living adjustments, so there'll be costs increase, but there's like that in most of our other projects. So we'll have to add anywhere from 5 to 10% to the other budgets.
And I guess where I'm wondering then is, does it make sense then to pursue those extra funds somehow to avoid the cost down the road?
I think we'll have to, my department and I are planning on applying for some grants, and maybe there's some dollars out there that can help supplement this project or other project moving forward.
I don't know if you'll have an answer for this question, but if someone wanted their name on that softball field, what would be the price tag to get a name on that? Just curious.
I would just use the difference right now in the bid, so about $100,000.
How much?
100,000.
Okay. Thank you.
I got some additional questions. If we decline these bids right now, is the process just that it has to go back out for bid at some point? Do we have to seek out new plans again down the line? I know it's a year, but I'm just, hypothetically, we roll into some money, 2 months from now, your team is able to find something and we're like, hey, we can do this now.
Yeah, we'd have to rebid it.
Okay.
But following the same bidding process as we did before with the 2-week announcement and sealed bids and all of that. So we'd have to follow that same process.
No additional plans or anything would be needed, though? We could stick with what we had. There wouldn't have to be...
We would have to update some dates in them, but there would be really no changes. There might be minor changes, like we changed the concrete from 5 inches to 4.5 or 5 inches to kind of, or 4 inches to save some dollars, but nothing, no changes probably.
And what's the current status of the rest of the projects right now? I have not driven down that road by the playground and stuff. I thought somebody told me the other day that it was kind of being torn up right now, but is that true? I don't know if that's true. If anything, like, is it usable at this time, or is it going to be unusable for the next year then?
Well, I guess pickleball started, so that project started. They're starting to move some dirt there. I don't even think they haven't even moved dirt. They just mobilized a couple pieces of equipment. The horseshoe pits are removed, so they're gone. This summer, the horseshoe group is going to take out the clay, the material that they use for the courts. The playground was removed. It had a number of issues, a number of safety concerns. Decking was opening. There were a number of cracks in our slides. We estimated costs around $15,000 to repair that, and I didn't want to invest that kind of money into something we were going to replace in a year or two anyway. Softball will stay as is. The shelter will stay as is, and the parking lot will stay as is. So nothing's changed there.
Okay. do we make any money off of like that area that could be put towards this? If we were to like, I don't know, do we monetize the softball field in any way or anything like that that we could utilize to put towards this project?
We do. We rent out the shelter as well as the softball field, but that goes towards our operating budget. So taking money away from our operating budget just kind of creates another hole somewhere else. So I'd rather not just create a bunch of holes.
That makes sense. I think last question, if I don't know how we would come up with the money. I would just hate to see that park unusable for a year if we could avoid it. But do you see any alternate options here? Like, what's the timeline? Would we have to decline these bids today? Do we have time that we could sit on this for a little bit and think tank it and try to come up with something? Or is it kind of like, hey, if we don't make a decision today, then we're so far behind at that point, it doesn't matter?
Construction wasn't going to start until after the softball season, so that would have been around August 5th for this year. So we do have time on our side on that aspect. I can approach some of the other user groups, but the user groups are like the public high school, Columbus Catholic schools, and like the softball clubs, but they don't really have much money. They're already looking for dollars for their own projects. Our best bet would be some sort of grant, whether it's through the county or through another mechanism. Maybe there's Major League Baseball dollars available or something, but there's not a ton of grants associated with ball field construction.
Sure.
So,
and at the naivety of myself here in terms of grants, is there like a specific season that more grants are available than others? Like as we get through or into summer or at the tail end of summer, do we start to see more grants open up for construction into like parks and softball fields and things like that for the next year? Or is it just pretty consistent throughout the year?
there are always grants available. Now, whether you have a project that is qualifiable for those grants, it all depends. DOT, DNR, state grants, they're always out there. They usually have a deadline of like April 1st or June 1st. Typically, it's the first half of the year for most grants for deadlines. But then you may have to have your project shovel ready, or it might be an economic driver or brownfield, or it's going to renovate something. So it depends if your project fits their criteria. And a lot of times they're only going to give you $5,000 or $10,000.
Thank you.
Mike?
Did you say everything would be pushed back, or is the pickleball moving forward yet?
Well, pickleball, we're moving for those have been awarded.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Contractor pre-qualification for 2024 presented by Josh.
Right, so if you remember a couple weeks ago, we pre-qualified 7 contractors for 2024 construction projects. One company did ask after that. Actually, we had a bid opening last week, and they actually asked since that bid opening if they could also pre-qualify for any more work. They're not sure if they would bid, but after talking to some references with other municipalities, several of them had issues with performance, meeting the timeline to complete a project, for materials, and other things like that. So I recommend that we do not approve this contract.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question related to this, I guess. I've seen that company around for years, so it's kind of strange to me that that's the case. And although I've never worked with them or know anyone there, are we sure that this isn't like procurement issues or something that we've struggled through the last few years that we're out of their control? I guess I just want to make sure we're not eliminating someone for a reason that potentially isn't really their fault.
The things we heard were poor performance, failure to complete a project, which is actually a lawsuit now. Basically poor performance. There was some non-conforming materials they used on a project, so we just weren't comfortable with it.
Any other?
Yeah, one mic. I was just going to ask you, do we have any kind of like impact chart or anything that we track this to? Because obviously this is something that we're getting is like hearsay, right? I mean, I think it's a big deal to that point of, if they're late on a project, that's money that could eventually cost the city down the line anyway. So that's a big deal. But is there any kind of like impact chart or anything we have where it's like, this is a level 3, we're like not as concerned, but let's keep an eye on them, or something like that, where we're, instead of just saying anybody who comes back with a negative reference can never bid, is it more like, hey, we might want to watch them, double check their bids a little closer, something like that?
Yeah, the pre-qualification forms are, I think largely they're looking for whether or not they're capable from a financial standpoint or equipment or manpower. There are references in there for past work. We may have our own past work issues with them. That's not the case here necessarily, but based on other references, we just weren't comfortable.
Yeah, that's exactly why I was asking, because I'm thinking if we have some issue with the company in the past where we've had a bad experience, I think that would be like a Sev 1 to me, like we know how this turned out, versus if we're hearing it from somebody else, we don't really have, any kind of, I wouldn't call it proof, but we don't have anything to look at that can show us that except for that person's word. So I just, to Mike's point, like I wouldn't want to disqualify somebody just based on hearsay, but if there is, like some sort of chart or scale that we could evaluate against to say, this is more severe.
We don't have a charter scale. What we do is just look at performance and risks to the city. In this instance, I was on the phone call too and heard the same comments from, it was a consultant, and that consultant's actually in court with them on a project. They were pretty unhappy. The city that they're working for was unhappy also. That's why there was a lawsuit. They listed that they weren't in default at any projects, yet here we're getting a reliable story that there was.
Got it. So you're doing like a risk analysis then basically say, okay, that makes sense. Yep. Thank you.
Anything else? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Review and approval of East 14th Street reconstruction plans presented by Josh Marowitz, the city engineer. You're going to be busy.
If you skipped one line, there's approval of the schedule before approval of the plans. But I got them both, so I'll take this one. So there's a schedule in your packet for the timing of the East 14th construction project. Started out with tonight, plan approval, which will follow this schedule, approval of the schedule that we're talking about, advertising for bids. We advertise, the ad was submitted to the paper. It won't be published till the 16th. And next week, Wednesday, the following Wednesday, or Tuesday, what is today? Yeah, Tuesday. The bid opening is tentatively scheduled for May 1st, which is stated in the advertisement for bids. Approval would then be Monday, May 6th at the Board of Public Works, followed by council approval the following week. And once contracts are prepared, the construction could start early June, depending on contractors' availability. So I'm just asking you approve this schedule.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion?
One question. So am I reading that right? It's a 5-day turnaround then from when the bids open to when we award the lowest bidder?
It's a week.
It's a week?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that standard then? Like, go ahead, Tom.
Okay, what we're doing is that when we open the bids, we're actually taking a review of where that fits in the budget and then making a recommendation to the Board of Public Works. Generally, we typically only need a few days to go through the budgets, make sure things function, or whether or not there's going to have to be a reallocation from one location to another to make a project work. So yeah, that's atypical for what we see in this.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carried. I'm on 8.
Oh, you are on 7.
7. Oh, back to 7. Okay. Review or approval of East 14th Street reconstruction plan presented by Josh, city engineer.
All right, so on your screen, Tom may scroll through the plans for these 14th Street reconstruction. Big picture, it's a complete reconstruction from really between Central and Maple, where the concrete pavement ends from the Central Avenue project. So that's where the project starts, and we'll go up to the west side of Vine Avenue. We won't get into the Vine Avenue intersection. That'll be open at all times. Like I said, it's a complete reconstruction, so it's new sanitary sewer mains and laterals, new water main and services, new storm sewer, asphalt pavement designed to carry heavy traffic. Also sidewalk on both sides. There is a gap right now where there is no sidewalk on the north side between Cedar and Cherry. So that will be completed also. It's a pretty thorough project, but everything will be brand new when we're completed. So if you have any questions, I can answer.
Get a motion first?
Motion.
Second. Okay, question?
Yeah, for, like, this is obviously, I have been down on this side of town a lot, live down there, and so we drove this road a lot. It definitely is in need of the work, so I'm glad that we're getting to it. For like a divert plan for this type of area, since that's I think that's like one of the main roads I think that you would really take to get from Central to Peach. Where do we divert people to? I know, and do we see any potential risk on schedule? Because I did look at the schedule in relation to where this is at, and it says complete construction by the 19th. I was double checking really for fair time. And I think you were safe yet, but just on the off chance we have any rain days or anything like that, it's cutting it close.
Yeah, it's kind of a tight schedule. We're concerned with the Dairy Fest parade in that area first. And so I think if they can start shortly after that, even if construction drags on to past fair time, we had a similar project on 17th Street a couple of years ago that was in the middle of the fairgrounds, and we made it work. This will be an inconvenience like any other construction project. The thing that will help on this project is the Vine Avenue intersection will be completely open the entire time. I don't believe we talked about a detour route at all, but it's local streets on both sides.
Yep. Now, that's what I was mainly thinking of is, Central. And I was specifically thinking of like the fair, if you got people coming in off Central or something like that and going up to 14th. And I would assume that's a major route since I know you got Vine, but just a lot of back roads with a lot of residential over there. So thank you.
So isn't, on that topic, isn't it County H then, or County H goes north on Central?
County Trunk H actually runs, I think, 29th Street.
Okay, all right.
Goes from 14th Street south on Central to 29th and then back up on Galvin.
So my question is, driving the stretch is kind of like obstacle course, and the manhole covers specifically. You've got people that are going into the fairgrounds to store their rigs for the winter. And my question is, what is the standard for the difference in height between the manhole cover and the street? We seem to have a lot of, potholes that aren't really potholes. They're just manhole covers that are beyond 2 inches down.
Well, they're designed to be, I would say, a quarter inch, maybe low, but it kind of comes down to the asphalt paver and how they literally shape the asphalt as they pave it. I know what you mean. It's quite common, especially after a season of frost heave and such, but that's the design basis, is looking at that quarter inch tolerance.
And I can also appreciate not wanting to catch a snow blow or snow plow on a manhole cover, but some of the manhole covers just seem like they're way too low.
This project being a total reconstruct, it's a little easier to get those manhole covers closer to that actual grade. A lot of times we wait till the final lift of asphalt is done, where you actually pave the whole thing and then you cut those locations, pack the grade, and then that last 1.5 inches then is actually set where that manhole cover should be at the right grade and slope, and then try to set it a quarter inch down. The ones that you're probably referring to are more of our overlay projects, where it's hard where we're setting them 2 to 3 inches high to start with, and then you're trying to match into it with the grade or the paver that's coming through, and then they're rolling it, and you only get sometimes so much compaction on that.
So just out of curiosity, a little bit off topic then, but when we have an overlay then, do we routinely put a collar on those manholes to elevate them a little bit?
The concrete's actually removed, the casting's adjusted vertically, and they'll pour new concrete around it.
Okay.
So I think they set them that 2.5 inches on our overlays that vary from 2 to 3 inches.
Yeah. And we're not alone. I mean, if you drive 13 through Medford, same thing. You've got watch the manholes because they're pretty deep, you know. Thank you.
Derek?
Sorry, I just thought of one more. I feel like I'm being difficult tonight. When we do these major reconstructions like this and there's businesses affected, how do we communicate that? Because I was just thinking about it and I was looking at the corner of Maple and 14th there. So I'm like, I think that's where Poor Choices is, right? And then you got like the dry cleaner and everything back there. So I know that drives a lot of traffic. I mean, obviously you could go around, but you know, there are some people that just won't. So how do we work with that? Do we just communicate with them and then it just kind of is what it is? Or is there any kind of mitigation? I mean, there's not much we can do, but.
Yeah, there's communication with all the property owners on a project before the project, during the project. We also do door hangers the contractor can hang as they're about to impact a property. We have had instances where we could maybe work something out, or just even the private business themselves, once they know what's happening, they can assist in signing their own traffic. Press releases for road closures happen. Yeah, I mean, we have a variety of means, but nothing real targeted necessarily to business.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know if the city assisted with any business costs that would be related. I think I have seen like signs before where it'll like the business name on the detour sign so you can go around, but.
We have assisted in the past on some of our major projects like Central Avenue or Veterans Parkway or North Central. We did do a lot of signage for that, but there's a lot of cost to that too. And one of the things we did with this project, like we did with 17th Street, is when we do come back with the award for bids, we're proposing to also set up planting trees on this corridor again, like we did on 17th, to try to restore some of the trees we took out. We know that the sanitary sewer laterals and water laterals going to the homes, we had to take a lot of mature trees down on this corridor because we knew they were going to be gone. So we're going to do what we can. But there's, you know, with this one, we will have public informational meetings and work with those residents if they need a different location to come into the site. You know, we've done where we've used gravel and stuff. So we'll be meeting with them and trying to answer their individual needs.
Perfect. Thank you.
I do have one other question. You just reminded me, Tom, how many lead laterals do we have on that stretch that'll be reconstructed?
I'm not sure.
There is no answer to that. We are replacing all the water and sewer laterals on that project. I don't think the utility knows exactly what they have for 100% for lead. Those homes would be in the older era of the city, which were the water main is there some of their oldest main in the city. So I would bet you if not all are.
So Governor Evers was in Marshfield not long ago when he talked about this. Are there dollars available to offset the cost for lead laterals?
That money is running out right now. He is setting more dollars over for PFAS and some other issues. The lead money is starting to dwindle, and we were just having a discussion about some of the requirements that are going to be forthcoming to the water utility when it comes to lead. They are going in 2026. I believe the DNR and EPA are going to mandate that the city puts phosphorus into the water to build a crust over any lead, so that the water's not actually touching it. So, but we're gonna have to take that out at the wastewater level. So we're gonna have to take and remove that phosphorus before it goes back out into the creeks and streams. So it's a ever-changing challenge to meet all these requirements.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, remove project schedule. Review project schedule for Adler Road Trail presented by Tom.
All right, here we're at the Adler Road Trail. We had the PS&Es submitted to the state here last week. This project, we had all the right-of-way obtained only about 3 weeks ago, and if you noticed, we did take the trees down. They had to be down before March 31st to meet the requirements by DNR and the state. So therefore, we're looking at approving the plan here tonight, the Board of Public Works and the project schedule. We are hoping to advertise for bids here coming up on April 24th and May 1st. And then having the final plans and specs online around May 1st. Final acceptance for pre-qualification for this project for anyone else who would like to bid on it. would be on May 6th. And then we're looking to open bids on May 15th and then bring them back to the Board of Public Works on the 20th and the Common Council 28th, and then start the project. This project, because it's a DOT format and the PS&E has to be approved and it has to be signed off on before we can even start advertising, all these dates are going to be somewhat fluid until we get that written letter from the DOT. So we are anticipating starting construction about August 12th, because there's a time and period that goes through the state process when after the project's bid, that they have to go through and have it signed by the governor. So there's a process in there that takes some time. But we are looking to have substantial completion here on or before Friday, October 18th, and then any final things be completed by June 1st, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review of plans for Adler Road Trail presented by Tom.
All right. I'm just going to quickly kind of go through some of the highlights of this project. For the first portion of the project, as we move from Weber Park over to Hawthorne Avenue, we have our initial impact has to do with some wetlands. We have filed with DNR and Army Corps of Engineers for that impact. The original plan, when we originally conceptually put this together, we were going to affect a little over 9,000 square feet of wetlands with this project. We realigned the first run and put guardrail in adjacent to County Trunk Highway Y. And by doing this and getting the trail up and behind the guardrail, we reduced the impact of wetlands down to 1,997 square feet. Again, like you noticed, if you've driven through here, all the trees have been removed already. And that is because we needed to have them removed before bats can take hibernation or stock in these trees. That was a requirement by the DNR and the Army Corps of DOT before letting this project. There's several locations where we're modifying the storm sewer inlets from County Trunk Highway Y into the our system so that we can make the project work well and blend a little better. You'll notice the first one being at Station 107. The majority of this trail is going to be about a foot off of the right-of-way. There's spots where we're a little bit further than that, but in most instances, we are about a foot off the right-of-way. Again, on this page, we have some storm sewer changes to make it fit better with the adjacent properties. The dash line that you see in there is the slope intercept and the basically the alignment. Every intersection has truncated domes and concrete approaches. And so curb and gutters can be removed at every single intersection. Again, on this page, we have at 119 and 12290, we have some storm sewer modifications. And then as we move closer to Magnolia, we have, we're just basically back typical alignment through this area. And then as we approach Sycamore, we line up with the existing trail that it lines up there at Sycamore, and we'll be connecting to the existing sidewalk at this location. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve the plans as they're submitted and look for bids.
Motion to
Derek,
approve.
a second. Mike, any question? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, request to approve request for a proposal for construction services for Adler Trail, presented by Tom Tersch.
All right, back in 2020, the city was awarded Transportation Alternatives Program grant from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for the construction of a pedestrian/bicycle trail along the south side of Adler Road from Sycamore Avenue to Weber Park. This project will complete the missing link in the city's trail network. Funding began in July of 2022. MSA Professional Service has completed the design, and we're hoping to have a bid package in this project here ready for June with the construction start in July, late July or early August. As we move forward, we will need a consultant for construction management, as we did with the other projects that include state funding. We typically use a request for proposals process for consultant selection, as was done for the Lincoln Avenue project. The proposed RFP is attached. The procurement must follow the Wisconsin DOT procedures as a quality-based selection process. A predetermined list of consultants are invited to submit proposals outlining their qualifications for the project. The consultants that are ranked and based upon their proposals, and then a fee for service is negotiated with the top ranked firm. Price is not a factor in selecting a firm. If negotiations with the top ranked firm do not reach an agreement, negotiations proceed to the next ranked firm. Once a firm is selected and a contract amount is negotiated, Wisconsin DOT must give final approval before work can begin. So I'd approve the enclosed request for proposals for construction services for the Adler Road Trail and the authorization to solicit proposals. I can kind of just hit a couple of the project timelines just to give you an idea. We're looking at disseminating proposals to pre-selected firms on April 19th. That's this Friday. And we would start review proposals, which were due on May 10th at 4 p.m. Staff evaluations would take place between May 11th and the 31st. And then we'd make a recommendation in the June meeting to the Board of Public Works. The Common Council then would approve the recommended proposal, and then we had to fill out some forms and begin contract negotiations. The Board of Public Works would then approve the contract in July and the council in July, and then everything would be circulated for signature on July 15th to the 25th, and then we'd give their notice to proceed in July 29th, just before construction would start.
Motion?
A motion.
Second?
Second.
Russ? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay. I lost. Bid opening award for Green Acres, first edition.
All right. Bids were open for the contract 2024-02 Green Acres Estates First Edition street opening. The low bid was submitted by Haas Sons Incorporated of Thorpe, Wisconsin in the amount of $2,695,662.62. We had 4 bidders for this project. Haas Sons, Earth Incorporated, Switlick and Sons, and A1 Excavating. The city is currently in negotiations with Denyon Homes for a developer's agreement to include the construction of the infrastructure required to provide service for a 77-lot subdivision. Infrastructure includes the following: streets, storm sewers, sanitary sewers, water mains, gas mains, and electrical service. The final developer's agreement will need to be brought before the Common Council for approval. It will not be the April 23rd meeting. I believe it's going to be the May 7th meeting. And I will be requesting the Board of Public Works to hold a special meeting prior to the council meeting on the 7th for final recommendation and approval of awarding this contract at that time. So this is just basically for your information only. We're kind of holding on to it until we have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted with the developer's agreement. Are there any questions? Go ahead.
I got a question. Well, 2 things. One would be, if we are now moving that meeting to May 7th, do we need a special Board of Public Works meeting, or can we do it on the May 6th?
We may do it on the May 6th, probably on that date, but there's going to probably be some other pieces that have to go together with making everything work for the.
Okay, sounds good.
Keep you informed.
Perfect, thank you. The other question I just had is that this is one, I know we've talked about this a lot, but I'm just looking at these bid numbers and they're kind of all over the place. There's like $1 million difference there between the low and the high. But even the low and the next lowest is, almost about $500,000. So just wanted to see if there's anything there that we should reevaluate. If we did a pretty deep look at this and we thought, hey, it looks apples to apples, or...
Well, if you take and compare this to the bids we opened 2 years ago for almost an identical project as this, we're actually seeing it less than what we saw 2 years ago, and there's a lot more competition on this one. We did call the contractor on this project and spoke with them specifically because of that, we were concerned whether or not they might want to take and say, I just don't think I can do it for that price. But they actually believe that they were not uncomfortable with their bid and wanted us to continue to try to move forward.
Okay.
So we're actually seeing cost savings, I figured about with this bid, approximately about 10% compared to what we bid it back in 2021. And the asphalt costs, even though they're probably 30% higher, they came down just about 1% to 6% this year for American asphalt. It still puts it, I think, right on target for where we were thinking. We estimated, because we had been seeing several years of 15% increases with some of these projects, that our estimate was actually about $3.4 million when we put this together.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? We have to have a motion first.
No motions, just for discussion.
Okay, all right. Number 12, request to purchase total station presented by Josh Meyer.
All right, the engineering division uses a variety of survey equipment for the design and construction of street and utility projects. One such piece of equipment is a robotic total station, which is used to collect information about an existing site, and then again also for stakeout of the proposed construction. This work is performed in support of the contractors, the street division, wastewater department, along with other miscellaneous surveying. Our current total station is a Trimble S6 with a TSC3 data collector. Both are 13 years old and have more than twice exceeded their life expectancy of this sort of equipment. The manufacturer no longer provides support for the current unit. Software upgrades are no longer provided. The warranty expired in 2014, and we've made 3 or 4 repairs since then. If the total station were to fail, it would likely delay construction of both contracted projects and street division projects. Service delays would require a rental unit, which currently costs $2,700 a month. The engineering division is requesting approval to replace this total station. The existing unit will be advertised for sale on the Wisconsin Society of Land Surveyors website and also the Wisconsin Surplus online auction site. This total station was initially scheduled to be replaced in 2023. Due to shifting priorities and a funding shortfall, replacement was delayed until the 2024 budget year. Only one maker model was considered in order to maintain compatibility with our other existing survey equipment. A quote from Seiler Geospatial is summarized below it. They utilized their same pricing as they would give Wisconsin DOT. So this package came in at $40,054.93. The quote is attached to this memo. And the money comes from the internal service fund earmarked for vehicles and equipment replacement. And the estimate for this item for this year was $65,000. So I recommend approval of the purchase of a Trimble S7 total station package from Seiler Geospatial in the amount of $40,054.93.
Motion by Mike, second by Derek. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any recommended items for future agendas?
I would, I'd like to get an update on the relocation of the communications department to the basement, City Hall.
Anybody else? Seeing none? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Derek? Mike? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.